Welcome back. I'm Phil with Lincoln's Creations and Rentals. Sorry about my voice. I'm a little hoarse right now. Been gone for a while, but I'm back and I wanted to share with you a new project I've got, and it's going to be a gift. So this is sort of my Christmas special, a gift for my niece. And today we're going to be making a jewelry box, custom jewelry box. I've got some beautiful poplar here that I'm going to use for the top. 1/4-inch poplar board to segregate different compartments inside the jewelry box. I've got some hickory and some mahogany to do the outside of the box. A piece of 1/4-inch oak for the bottom of each little section I'm going to build. And beyond that, we might use some other things like ipe or whatever, some other dark wood I've got laying around to do some custom work, and maybe some purpleheart to inlay some stuff into the top, some purple strips into the top. I'm really excited. So thanks for joining me. But we're gonna jump right in. First thing we're gonna do is take the mahogany and hickory over to the miter saw, and I'm gonna cut them. I want the mahogany actually to be the width and the hickory to be the front length. So with that in mind, I'm gonna cut the hickory a little more than 14 inches and make sure I've got 2 equal pieces, and the mahogany about 10. And again, same thing, 2 equal pieces, 10. So we're gonna cut those real quick right now. So we've got our Rockler box joint jig set up, all ready to go. I did a whole bunch of test pieces just to make sure we've got it lined up before I start putting the hardwood through. So we're gonna do that now, get some of these pieces going, and start cutting these joints. So we wrapped up cutting the rest of those box joints, and then I actually brought it over to my table saw and I trimmed off the bottom because the mahogany piece I had was just shy of the 5.5 inches it was supposed to be, but I didn't have any others laying around, so we just had to trim this down just a little bit. And now we're gonna run a kerf, about a 1/4-inch wide kerf through the bottom inside of this box, so we can build the base using our 1/4-inch oak plywood that we had at the beginning. We're gonna end up cutting that about 1/2 inch wider than the width and length of the box here, and slide it right into that kerf spacing that's gonna be probably just shy of 3/8 inches deep. I wanna go a little less than half the thickness of these boards. So I'm gonna get the table saw set up and start running this through. So I know these already fit pretty snug, but I am going to clean them up just a little bit. I've got a 3/8 inch square dowel and some 320 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to roll that up in here and clean out each one of these joints real quick before we can put together the base. Just gonna clean up the edges real quick here. Now we can start gluing up the box. But let's test fit this real quick first. That looks like a pretty good fit. So now we can take it apart and glue it up. To finish out the main box, we're going to grab our pull saw and we're going to cut off all these, the main pieces of these nubs here before we sand it with the random marble sander. And then once we're done with that, we're going to clean up the top with the random marble sander as well. So I'm going to get to cutting these off. I've already chopped off one side. It's a little rough, but I think the sander will get to the rest of it. But here we go. I'm not going to sit here and do all these, so I'm going to cut the camera off and I'll come back when it's all sanded. Because I want to share what works and what doesn't, I was just going to try and fill these two holes on this side and on the other side with my Titebond medium thick black and my accelerator. And unfortunately, this is a little thin, so it just leaked right through. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to throw some hot glue down in the base of that first, because this is much thicker, it won't go anywhere, and then I'll fill the top of that hole with the black to make it nice, clean, and sand it off. Still getting a little leakage out the bottom here, but I'm hoping that'll set up with the accelerator and then we can fill it back in some more. So we've got our gaps filled in by the Titebond medium thickness glue, and we got the whole box sanded down. So now we're all set to rough out the top. So this is about 10 inches by 13 3/4. We're going to go a little big, and then we'll use a flush router to trim it off to size. So it's exactly the same size as the box, regardless of whether there's a little skew anywhere in the box. And we're going to do that by cutting the top out of this beautiful piece of poplar right here. And I'm going to get the table saw set up and we'll get that ripped off. So I really want to do something special with this top. I know it's a beautiful piece of poplar, an edge glued poplar, but it's still nice. It's got some nice purple tones to it and some nice grain. But I want to do something more. So I've got this purpleheart, and I actually want to inlay a whole bunch of pieces of these, potentially in a crisscross random pattern. So I'm going to rip off a whole bunch of about 1/8 inch thick pieces of this purpleheart on the table saw here, and then what we'll end up doing is using the table saw to rip channels in here so I can glue the purpleheart in. So I'm going to rip off those strips right now, and then we'll cut into the top of, well, we'll put some channels in the top of this using the table saw randomly and glue in the strips of purpleheart. So I got to retape the description of what I had done, but we cut out the channels for the top. That's going to hold the top in place. We did that by taking some scrap 1x4. We nailed it, temporarily nailed it in place. One on each side, and got our 1/2 inch dowel. And then we ran our router with our flush bit right down the side, right down the middle. And then we took these off. Some of the nails didn't come out, so we had to hammer them down a little further. Some of the nails did come out, but we touched up the sanding a little bit real quick. But I've got the video on running the router, but just missed the audio. So I'll show that for you guys now, but then we're gonna move on and cut out the runners for in here out of this nice darker wood. So we've got a mess in the shop, but we're coming along here. I've got the base with these, call them sliders or locks right here in place. I may have to sand this out just a hair more so it fits just a little less snug. But these are eventually going to get glued to the top. I've got the top working here. Let me undo this. So there's our first layer of inlay. And I'm going to run this through clip these off, run this through the planer real quick. And then I'm actually going to put some other pieces going in the other direction. And then when we're all said and done, we'll plane off this backside so that you can actually see the inlays on both sides. So I'm going to get to that and run this through the planer, get another couple inlays cut out, and then I'll be back to measure our little compartments in here. So I'm excited. I got that all planed down. I gave it a quick sanding with 150 grit random orbital sander, and I planed both sides so you actually get the pattern on both sides. I really like the dark purple that shows through on this side a little more than some of the other tones over here. And I know when I end up polyurethaning this may get real dark and real black, but I still think this is a nice clean side. So what I'm gonna do is set that aside for a second. I've got a couple of nuts here that we're going to place down in here to raise these up just a little. so that they're in place. But so I don't get glue to glue the top on. So I want to put it up here, but if it oozes out a little, I want to try not to get it anywhere else. So let me grab a glove. So I don't get the glue all over my hands. And we're going to glue this up and then set the top down. I'm going to try and do just a little bead all the way through. And then we're going to spread it out a little bit. Again, don't want to get it on the box itself. Move that nut back where it's supposed to be. That gets me all the way through both sides. Thin this out just a little. Take the glove off. And now we want to set this right on top with every edge hanging over at least a little. You do find a good spot. I think that's a good spot right there. And we're going to put a little weight on top of there. Doesn't look like too much is squeezing out. So hopefully that'll be a good spot. Make sure I've got a little lip all the way around, because we're going to trim that all off later with our flush bit. So I've got this 1/4 inch milled poplar board. We're going to use this to develop the compartment spaces throughout this jewelry box. So I'm going to rip off about 1 inch deep of this right now, and we're going to create in total 6 little compartments in the bottom of this box. So I'm going to have one that goes across the middle lengthwise, and then 2 that go across the width here. We'll have 6 nice little deep boxes, which would be good for watches or thick necklaces, design necklaces, stuff like that. And that'll be the base. So again, rip off about 1 inch, maybe a little bit less, and that's as deep as I want to make that lowest compartment area. And then I'm going to grab my table saw sled, and we are going to run 1/4 inch gaps so that these interlock. Just like when people make for their utensils and stuff like that in their utensil drawer, that's what we're going to do with this. So I'm going to rip off 1 inch right now and then grab the table saw sled and see if we can knock that out real quick. So I took a couple minutes to sand these down a little bit. And now I want to glue them into place. So I need to grab my wood glue and run a bead along the bottom and then set it in place, put a little weight on it. There we go. That should do it for a little while. We'll let that set up overnight. So the last thing we want to do before we do any final sanding and clear coating, since we've got the box and our well-fitting top, snug fitting top, all ready to go, is I want to put at least 2 more trays in here nested on top. So I'm going to build one that will lay on top of here and come all the way up to nearly the top. And then we'll put a cross section in there as well. And then I want to do another one nestled inside that one that's right up near the top, maybe for small things like earrings. So basically your smaller earrings and your slightly bigger pieces of furniture, slightly bigger pieces of jewelry. And then in the bottom, you've got 6 compartments for a big necklace, a watch, or something like that. So that's what we're going to work on today. I'll probably just record doing the first box or the first little nestling tray. And when I'm all said and done, this thing will be final sanded and clear coated and ready to be given as a gift.